Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm planning with this Paper Trail Plans Kit Autumn Flame. It is a silver kit, kind of a cool take on fall with blue, tan, peach, and the florals are really gorgeous. The purple here, I really love the washi too with these silver pumpkins. I also got the deco sheet, which has a ton of deco. So yeah, let's get into it. So this week is the second week of my vacation, and I am visiting family. So in case you hear a baby crying in the background, which I will try to edit out, that is what that is. I'm also in a slightly different recording setup, so we'll try to edit out any echo or anything like that, but I'm doing my best here. Recording on location. So yeah, this is the second week of my vacation, and I'm definitely, or was definitely, feeling a little bit stir crazy. So I got out of town. I went to this place called Sea Ranch. And it is, if you're familiar with California, it's like very north on the California coast. So it's, if you drive up one, it's about a 3-hour drive from where I live. And like I said, most of the drive is up Highway 1. So Highway 1 in California is beautiful. It's basically, I think it's known as the Pacific Coast Highway. California people, please come for me if that's not correct. I'm pretty sure that's right. And when I say it's beautiful, you're driving right along the coast. You can look over to your left and see the ocean. It's super pretty. The only problem is it's an extremely twisty road. And when I say twisty, I mean there's a lot of hairpin turns. There's a lot of really close turns. And technically that highway is a 55-mile-an-hour road, which I don't know how, but I felt like it was so, the turns were so steep and the embankments were so steep that I could really only go 35, 40 max. So whenever there was a car behind me, I just pulled over into a turnout so to let them pass, because I'm like, I need to go slowly. So not only were the turns like extremely, like I said, twisty and a lot of really close turns and really high speeds, I think too high speeds for what it is, there's also several portions of the highway that do not have a guardrail on them. So it's you and essentially the side of a cliff, really. Like if you miscalculate how fast you're going around the turn, at least in my estimation as someone who doesn't drive there often enough, you go straight off the cliff, like straight off. So I'm sitting there driving and being like, wow, I really don't feel good. And it occurred to me that I'm like, this is a little bit like being on a roller coaster. That's how like up and down the twists were. And like I said, it's beautiful. You're looking at the Pacific Ocean, which, you know, you've got these gorgeous waves, gorgeous views, but you also want to throw up a little, and you think that you might, if you're me, you think you might go off this, you know, straight off the side of the railing and die. Like, I just, so it was hard to take in all that beauty and not also be simultaneously terrified and violently ill. But like I said, it was a beautiful drive. I think it would have been better to stop on that stretch. It's about a 60 mile stretch along Highway 1 to get to Sea Ranch. And yeah, I think what I would have done would have been to stop probably every 20 miles and get out and stretch my legs. I mentioned this to a couple of my friends, and they were like, oh, I always take Dramamine and all that. And I never really thought about it because looking at the map, you can't quite tell how like all over the place it is, you know, how just like left, right, you know, and again, 55 miles an hour is way too much. I've driven along roads that are that kind of twisty, turny, and it's been like 35, 25. So I was shocked. This is a 55-mile-an-hour road. There's also a point in time where we were really, really high up and it was quite foggy. So you're just looking out to the left. You can't see the ocean. It's just straight up mist. It looks like clouds. And I was like, if I go off, what's going to happen? I'm just going to fall through the clouds and land in the ocean. So yeah, like I said, it was beautiful, but it was scary. So Sea Ranch was also beautiful. Now, we all have heard about my dislike of the heat, and I decided to go to Sea Ranch this time of year because it would be cool, and it was definitely cool, which I enjoyed. So I would say there's a lot of like really crisp fall air, and it was just very quiet. Sea Ranch is a like private community, I guess private or private-ish community, where they've built all of the houses and a lot of the structures to be kind of harmonious with the land. So the houses are all built in a particular way, and there's quiet hours from, I think it was 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. or something. They also encourage you to like lower your curtains, close your curtains after quiet hours so that there's not so much light pollution. And really, I went out at night one night and I looked up and you could see the stars like very, very clearly. So it was just, it's a really beautiful place. I tried some of the coffee at this place called Trink's Cafe, which was really good. I think I may have over-caffeinated both days because I was really jazzed on my hikes. But I did a couple of hikes. I also visited this place called Sea Ranch Chapel, which is like a non-denominational chapel. And the architect who built it said it was kind of shaped after a sea snail. So it's kind of got these wingtips. It's like shaped kind of like two wings almost. And when you get inside, it's pretty small. I think you could only seat max maybe 8 or 9 people in terms of seats outside. But there's a place you can pray, and there's a little like Zen fountain outside. And so as I went in, someone was leaving. So I was there by myself. Again, Sea Ranch was pretty, in general, quite like, there weren't a lot of people, so quite isolated, which I didn't mind. But I went in the chapel for a few minutes and I was alone in there, and it was just like, you could hear the ocean. It was just very like soothing, I would say. The only thing is that Sea Ranch, is a smallish town, and it has a little bit of small town feel. So one night I was like, I want some pizza. And I called the pizza place, and the phone just kept saying like busy. It wouldn't even ring. So I was like, I wonder what that's about. I checked their hours and said they're open. So I'm like, I'm just going to go down there. So I go down there and I walk in, and it's one of those situations where like you walk in and everybody turns and looks at you. And I was like, okay. It's a smallish restaurant. So, it wasn't like it was this huge restaurant and people are turning around, but it still felt like people were like, who's this? I imagine they get a lot of tourists. Again, it's a beautiful place. And, I think people in the Northeast get what they call leafers, like people who travel upstate or up, in the States, kind of in the upper Northeast to see the leaves. So I imagine they get a lot of those types of people. But I walked in, everybody stared at me, and I was just like, okay. I ordered my pizza, and I sat down to wait, and it just felt like a hush kind of came over, the restaurant. And the vibe in there was a little bit like a small town where, like, someone had gotten murdered, and everybody knows who did it, but no one's talking to the cops. Now, I just made that up. And I'm not trying to malign the character of the people at Sea Ranch, who I assume are lovely. But that was just the vibe I got. That was just the feel of it. Now, I also need to say that this was not in Sea Ranch proper, now that I think about it. It was in the neighboring town, which is called Gualala. That's another kind of smallish town, but a lot of the parks, a lot of the like stuff to actually eat and do are in Gualala versus Sea Ranch, but it's like the next town over. Both Gualala and Sea Ranch are on this part of California they call the Mendocino Coast, which is basically like the border or I think they're kind of abutting each other, the Sonoma and the Mendocino Coast. This means nothing to you, again, if you don't live in California or you haven't visited, but it's like they just kind of made that name up. So yeah, it was peaceful. I'd say I went there for a couple of days. It was exactly when I needed to kind of get away and relax. Of course, I brought my planner stuff, so I planned some of my downtime. When I was not out hiking, I napped. I just, stared out at the ocean. Like, it was very relaxing, so I enjoyed it. So yeah, I am kind of wrapping up the last few days of my vacation. I'm going back to work next week, and I think I said this in my last video, but I'm one of those people that it's hard for me to take a break. And that's why I really need breaks, but I'm feeling a little bit restless. Like, there was a thought in my head, and I know this seems crazy, but it's a little bit like, could I just go back to work one day early? I don't know. I think I need to find more stuff to occupy my time. And actually, you know, visiting family and seeing my niece and stuff has sufficiently tired me out that I think I am ready for some more time off. She is a few months shy of 2. I guess I'd say, what, 1, 2, 3, 4? She's 4 months shy of 2, and she is so much fun, a little bit of a handful, but she's so much fun. Her favorite thing to do these days is to be read to. So she has more books than I think any other toy. And the thing about it is, I love reading to her, but she often wants to read, as children do, the same thing over and over again. So I have read Where the Wild Things Are like 10 times. I've read this book called Max and Nana Go to the Park like 10 times. I've read more than 10, like 10, 15 times. And I've read, my sister bought her this book called B is for Bolivia. It's like a alphabet book that kind of introduces you to Bolivia and the Quechua culture. I think I'm saying that correctly. And that one I've read like 25 times. Because when you're reading and you're done reading, she'll flip the book over when you're like, the end. She'll flip the book over and then she's like, again. And I'm like, okay. So, and I don't really feel right being like, no, I'm not going to read you this book again. So, or sometimes I'll say, hey, can we do another? And she'll say no. And I'm like, well, here we go. I guess we're going to read B is for Bolivia for the 15th time. And I don't mind, but it definitely, definitely caused me to be a little hoarse after a while. So one thing I noticed too is with the reading books that sometimes she decides to read books on her own. So she'll pick her books up off the bookshelf, she'll sit down with them and open them, and she'll flip them, usually like 2 or 3 pages at a time. She's definitely not reading like at reading level, but she will read out loud to herself, doing the same inflections that like people who are reading to her do. So she'll, you know, kind of babble. She's not actually saying words, and she's definitely not reading. Again, she's not even 2 yet, but she's sitting in front of the book, like doing the, you know, and it's not kind of the same voice that the adults who read to her do. It's very funny and cute. And then when she gets to the end, she's just like, Mama, you know, she'll shut the book. It's so cute. But like, she's definitely like mimicking everything that she sees and hears when people read to her, and it's so sweet. But the way she talks, again, she's not reading and she's not even saying words. She's really doing baby babble, but it sounds like she's reading. She's doing the same cadence as like people who read. It's fascinating. So that has been really fun. So another thing that I've been doing while I've been on break is reading a bunch. And a book I'm reading right now, I might have mentioned this in my last video, is this book called The Righteous Mind. And it's about how people develop morality and how our morality shapes our political and religious beliefs, and kind of why we disagree about politics and religion. You know, I think the subtitle is The Righteous Mind: Why Good People Disagree on Politics and Religion, I believe that is. And it's fascinating. You know, it basically posits that like our morality is obviously shaped by our parents, by the culture that we live in, by the cultural values that we grew up with. But it's also like we kind of start with some, you know, kind of inbuilt natural moral tendencies, like trying to avoid harm. You know, they have done like kind of morality tests with babies, and they, you know, the book describes this. So they show that basically babies want to avoid people that, you know, are hurtful to other people or make other people cry, even before they have language, even before they understand what it is for someone to really be hurt in kind of the like linguistic sense. And so we have kind of a draft, you know, that we come with as humans because of evolution, and that morality is then further shaped and like written and rewritten by our experiences, by our cultural values. You know, they talk about like children learning morals through experience and like experiential play. Basically, like children play with each other and they learn that like if, you know, another kid is hurt, that it's like better to soothe them than it is, you know, like they learn to share, they learn to cooperate. All of those skills are important in socialization. But yeah, it's really interesting. The last thing that I'll mention about the book is that it posits that a theory that morality is kind of like a palette, in that people have different moral tastes. So when you think of palates, like some people prefer sweet, some people prefer bitter, some people prefer more tangy, umami, all those things. But our morality is like that, you know, and there are 5 kind of moral tastes that people can vary in their preference on. And it's, you know, care and harm. So like I want to care for people. I don't want people to be hurt, especially the most defenseless among us, which are often like children and animals. I want my liberty. I don't want to be oppressed. I want fairness. I want to avoid people cheating. And now I'm struggling to remember the other 3. There's 6 of them actually, not 5. There's 6 of them. But it's just, I think, really interesting and fascinating. And for me, what it does, or what it has done, I'm almost done, is it has helped me kind of reframe when I think about people that disagree with me on politics and religion, away from like this person's totally wrong, you know, to like I see where they're coming from. And I see like I can think about what's important to them in the sense of how they develop their morality without feeling the sense of like they are really wrong about this, you know? So yeah, I think it's an interesting book. I kind of think it's a book, you know, I very rarely say this about books, but I feel like it's a book everyone should read, because I think it, again, regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, on the religious spectrum, what, you know, what religious kind of doctrine you follow or worship, I think that, you know, not to get all proselytizy here, but there's so many like deep divisions in society, and not that we all have to agree with each other, because there's definitely some things that I will never agree with another person with, that I have like firm beliefs, but it's about seeing the other person as a person and not as like a set of completely flawed premises where it's like this person's just totally wrong and, you know, they're completely alien to me. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I really enjoyed the book for that. That's what I got out of it, and I'd say it was really worth my time. It's about 370 pages, but the actual total book length is something in the order close to 500, just because there's so many footnotes. This is a really well-researched book. It's written by a professor from NYU. His name's Jonathan Haidt. Haidt. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. So another kind of book that I'm reading, I'm really listening to an audiobook, is called Atlas of the Heart by Brené Brown. And I know that, you know, a lot of people have like turned to her for pop culture psychology, but the Atlas of the Heart, the premise there is like, people can better understand their emotions if they're better able to name them. In the beginning, she says, and this is not a spoiler, but she says, you know, studies they've done, people are really only able to name 4 emotions, and most people focus on anger and sadness, and they really like, some struggle to name even more than that. And so like we can't really understand how we're feeling unless we figure out how to label our emotions and how to label them accurately and like what each one means. So she basically goes through an atlas of like, here's, you know, what the emotions are, and here's the distinction between the 2 of them, and like here's the distinction between overwhelmed and feeling stressed, and like I thought it was really interesting, so really enjoyed it there. Yeah, so that is my vacation book and family chat. I hope you all enjoyed this spread. I'm coming to the end of it here. I really did. I love silver and fall. It is so different and fun in this kit. I love the colors. It's so vibrant. So hope you're all having a great weekend, and I will see you all next time. Bye.